The Royal Proposal and a Silent Heart. The sky over Neo-Kyoto turned gold just after sunrise. But this was not the sun's doing. It was the ship. People on the streets stopped walking. Cars paused. Children pointed at the sky. Above them, floating silently, was a Zarian royal cruiser. It looked like a long silver blade, cutting the sky with no sound. Its smooth surface shimmered with alien light. The Zarians had come. Lena 10 stood near the city square, her eyes on the ship. She had seen many things during her work as a diplomat. Peace talks, wars, lies told behind smiling faces. But nothing ever made her heart beat like this. Not even the war on Orion Prime. Not even when she almost died. The ship slowly descended. It didn't need landing gear. It hovered above the ground like it was proud, like it knew it didn't belong here. The crowd gathered. People whispered. Some cheered. Most were afraid. From the ship, a ramp unfolded like it was made of light. And then he stepped out. Zoran of the bloodline Asriel, Prince of the Zarians. Tall, perfect, powerful. His skin glowed faintly like stars behind glass. His silver eyes looked only at Lena. She didn't move. Everyone in the crowd felt the tension. They didn't know her story. They didn't know that during the Orion crisis, Lena had saved Zoran's life. It was nothing to her. She had saved many lives. But to him, it meant everything. He had searched for her after that, watched from a distance, and now he had come to claim her. He walked toward her, slow and sure. In his hand was a crystal ring, shaped like the Zarian moon crest. It was not just a gift. It was a royal bond, a marriage proposal. He stopped in front of her. Silence fell over the city. No one dared to speak. Lena 10, he said, his voice deep and soft. I offer you a place beside me. I offer you eternity. Become one with the stars. Join the throne of Zarian. The crowd gasped. A human being offered marriage by a Zarian prince. It was history. Lena looked up at him. She felt everyone's eyes on her. Her heart pounded, but not with joy. This was not a surprise. She had known he would come. She had felt it for weeks, in her dreams, in the way the air changed around her. But something inside her said no. Not because Zoran was wrong. Not because he wasn't kind, or powerful, or beautiful. But because her heart was somewhere else. Lena looked past Zoran. Her eyes searched the crowd. And there, standing quietly near the edge, was a man in a dark jacket with oil stains on his sleeves. He didn't wave. He didn't speak. He just looked at her, calm and quiet. His name was Elias Hart. No one knew him. Just a mechanic. A man who fixed ships. A man with a past full of battles and silence. Lena had met him twice. Once when her shuttle broke down. Once when she returned to thank him. Those 2 times had stayed with her longer than 1,000 meetings with kings. She looked at Zoran again. Then she gently pushed the ring away. I'm sorry, she said, her voice steady. But I can't accept. Gasps spread through the crowd like fire. Some people cried out. Some couldn't believe it. Zoran didn't speak at first. His eyes blinked once, slow. Not in anger. Not in confusion. But in disbelief. Why? He asked. Lena didn't answer. She didn't owe anyone an explanation. But she knew what this meant. Rejection wasn't common among the Zarians. Not in public. Not like this. Zoran stepped back. He turned without another word and walked to his ship. The ramp folded. The cruiser lifted into the air without a sound. And then he was gone. But the silence he left behind was heavy. People stared at Lena like she had committed a crime. She didn't care. She looked toward Elias. But he was already gone. Maybe he didn't want to be seen. Maybe he didn't want trouble. But trouble was already coming. Lena turned and walked away, her heart both calm and afraid. She had said no to power, no to safety, no to a future most would kill for. Because she believed in something different, something simple, something human. What she didn't know was that Zoran was not done. The rejection had not ended his desire. It had awakened something darker in him. And now, the galaxy was about to change. The human named Elias. Elias' heart lived in the quiet edge of Neo-Kyoto, far from the towers of glass and neon. His home was part garage, part scrapyard, part memory box. Wires hung from ceilings. Broken ship parts rested against the walls like old friends. Outside, rusted wings of forgotten starfighters caught the morning light. People came to him when their machines gave up. Ships, hovercars, even small droids. Elias could fix them all. But no one ever asked about his past. They saw the scar near his left eye, the worn hands, the quiet eyes, and they knew better than to ask. He didn't talk much, didn't laugh either, but he listened. And when he looked at you, it felt like he saw everything. Not just the surface, the inside too. Lena had first met him 6 months ago when her private shuttle broke down near the outer district. The city mechanics were all booked, and someone whispered the name Elias. She had gone expecting a grumpy old man with grease on his shirt and a bad attitude. Instead, she found him calm, careful, and precise. He didn't speak unless it mattered. He had fixed her shuttle in 20 minutes without asking for more than a few credits and a thank you. But she had stayed, just a little longer than needed. She had watched him work. And for some reason, she had come back 2 days later. Not with a broken ship, but with coffee. He didn't drink it, just nodded and placed it on a nearby shelf. But he didn't ask her to leave either. They had talked that second time, not about anything big, just old ships, the way space felt different near the Venus ring, how stars looked lonely if you stared too long. She had wanted to ask more, but didn't. She had her world. He had his. And yet, here they were now, tied by a single moment in the city square. She had rejected a prince, and before the eyes of millions, she had looked at a man no one saw. A man who had no titles, no power, no throne, only silence and something steady inside him. After that day, she had gone to him again. No guards, no cameras, no words, just her and the truth that had grown louder inside her since the moment she said no. When Elias opened the door, he didn't seem surprised. She stepped inside without asking. He handed her a towel to dry the rain on her coat. She didn't speak. Neither did he. But something between them had changed. She sat on a bench near a half-finished engine. He returned to his work, a small circuit board blinking under his fingers. Time passed. Finally, she said, "They'll come for you." He didn't stop working. "I know." "I'm sorry," she said. He looked up, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that looked like fire held behind glass. "Don't be," he said. Outside, the rain grew harder. Inside, the hum of the power core filled the silence between them. That night, Lena stayed, not because she was afraid, but because the world outside had changed. The Zarians were watching. The city was buzzing. Media channels showed the moment again and again. Her standing before the prince, her voice saying no, her eyes drifting toward the crowd. Everyone had seen the direction of her gaze, and in that moment, they had seen Elias too. By midnight, drones flew over the outer district. Not police, not human. Zarian tech. Elias turned off the lights. They sat in the dark, barely breathing. He handed her an old blaster. She held it with shaky hands. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "I already am," he replied. At 2 a.m, someone knocked on the door. Not a loud knock. Slow, steady, patient. Elias didn't answer it. A moment later, a voice came through. A smooth, cold voice that wasn't human. "Elias Hart, surrender her now, and you will not be harmed. Resist, and you forfeit your life." Lena moved to the back of the room. Elias walked to the front, pressed a button hidden under the shelf. The wall behind them opened slightly, revealing a tunnel she hadn't noticed before. "Go," he said. "What about you?" He looked at her, not with fear, but with something else. Something like peace. "I'm not letting you face them alone." She followed him into the dark tunnel. The door sealed behind them just as the front of the garage exploded. Above them, the sky was quiet again. But war had already started. And love, unexpected, fragile, and real, was now the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Hunted across galaxies. The stars moved fast when you were running. Too fast to see their beauty. Too fast to feel safe. Elias and Lena sat in the back of a stolen Scout-class cruiser, built for short jumps and silent runs. It had no weapons, no shields worth speaking of, and no proper engine stabilizers. But it moved like a ghost. That was all they needed right now. Behind them, the fire in Neo-Kyoto still burned. No news channels reported it. No governments questioned it. When Zarian hands reached into human territory, they did so quietly. And no one stood in their way. Except now, one human did, and one woman who had said no. Lena stared through the small window. Stars stretched and blurred as they moved through hyperspace. She felt cold, not from the ship's broken heat system, but from the silence between her and Elias. He sat at the controls, eyes steady, body tense, like he hadn't fully breathed since they left. "We can't keep running," she said quietly. "Not running," he replied. "Finding time." She didn't ask what that meant. Not yet. She leaned back, trying to rest, but her thoughts wouldn't let her. She kept hearing Zoran's voice in her head, that soft tone that once made her feel safe, now full of disappointment and fury. And then there was Elias, his quiet courage, his hands stained with grease and blood, his way of making her feel like she was more than a symbol. She didn't just choose him over a prince. She chose truth over power, but now the cost was catching up. They dropped out of hyperspace near the moons of Triton IV, a quiet system at the edge of the trade belt. It was full of old mining stations, forgotten tech outposts, and broken satellites, a perfect place to disappear, at least for a while. They landed on a station called Driftwell, a floating platform where no one asked questions as long as you paid. The air smelled of rust and stale water. Lights flickered. People moved like shadows, careful not to draw attention. Elias had been here before. Once, a long time ago. They found shelter in an abandoned maintenance bay. Elias worked on the ship while Lena searched the network for signs of pursuit. It didn't take long. The bounty was already active. Elias Hart and Lena 10. Wanted dead or alive. Charges: treason, interference with royal decree, unlawful rejection of Zarian authority. The reward was more than most could dream of. Enough to buy a moon, maybe two. Enough to turn anyone into a hunter. She looked at Elias, who was tightening a bolt on the fuel converter. "We can't trust anyone now." He didn't look up. "We never could." She walked over, her voice low. "I need you to understand something. Zoran won't stop. This isn't about me anymore. It's about control. If a human can turn down the prince, it means others can too. He's going to make an example of us." Elias finished what he was doing and finally met her eyes. "Then we make our own example." Lena felt something shift inside her. He wasn't just protecting her. He was fighting with her, for something bigger than both of them. But hope only lasted a few minutes. They were spotted. A group of bounty hunters entered Driftwell, dressed like traders but walking like soldiers. One of them, a tall woman with silver implants and a glowing eye, locked eyes with Elias in the crowd. No words were exchanged, just a nod, a signal. The chase began. Elias grabbed Lena's hand and ran, through narrow halls, down rusted ladders, across broken bridges. The station came alive with warnings. Lights turned red, doors sealed, sirens wailed. But Elias knew these paths. He knew how to disappear. They reached the lower docks, where an old cargo hauler was warming up. Elias jumped into the pilot's seat, shouted over the roar, "This isn't going to be smooth." Lena fired a warning shot at the hunters behind them, then slammed the door shut. The ship lifted, shook, then tore out of the dock like a falling star in reverse. Behind them, the station exploded. Not all of it, just the bay they left behind. Someone had placed charges, a message maybe, or punishment for failure. Either way, the fire lit up the sky. Lena looked at Elias. They're trying to erase every place we touch. Then we stop running, he said. You said we needed time. We've got it now, just enough to find answers. She didn't ask what kind. She didn't need to. Something had changed in him, and maybe in her too. Lena reached into her bag and pulled out a crystal chip, ancient, marked with symbols from the old Zarian Empire. This is what they're really after. Elias stared at it. What is it? The truth, she said, and maybe the end of everything they built. They stared at each other as the stars moved again. The galaxy was hunting them. But now, for the first time, they were hunting back. Truth beneath the surface. The ship drifted quietly above the surface of Seriphus, a forgotten moon wrapped in shadow and silence. It didn't appear on most maps anymore. Most believed it had no value, no resources, no settlements, no reason to exist. But Lena knew better. She had found a name in a file buried deep in a Zarian archive. She had stolen that file 3 years ago and hidden it ever since. Now, as they hovered above the dark plains of Seriphus, the answers she once feared were calling her back. Elias guided the ship toward a flat, cracked plateau. The ground was dark red, like dried blood, and the air shimmered with static energy. Nothing moved. No wind, no creatures, no signs of life. Yet something about it felt alive. They landed in silence. Elias powered down the ship and grabbed a small pack of tools. Lena checked the crystal chip again, still glowing faintly. The ancient marks pulsed with soft blue light, like a heartbeat. You sure about this? Elias asked, eyes scanning the horizon. No, she said, but we're here anyway. They walked across the rocky surface, boots crunching on dust that hadn't been disturbed in centuries. Ahead of them stood a massive stone arch, half buried and covered in strange carvings. Lena ran her fingers over the symbols. She whispered something in Zarian tongue, and the arch lit up, revealing the doorway beneath the surface. They descended slowly into the dark. The tunnel beneath was older than anything Elias had ever seen. Walls of obsidian glowed with soft lines of energy, leading them deeper underground. The air was thick and heavy, not dangerous, but not welcoming either. It felt like walking into a memory that didn't belong to them. Finally, they'd reached a wide chamber. In its center stood a circular platform surrounded by tall pillars. At the center of the platform, there was a raised stone with a shallow groove, shaped perfectly for the crystal chip. Lena stepped forward, took a deep breath, and placed the chip into the groove. The chamber lit up. Images burst into the air above them. Floating visions of old Zarian rulers, ships flying through space, and strange swirling stars. Then came a voice, not loud but clear, speaking in ancient Zarian, which translated through the ship's link into soft, echoing English. This is the Temple of Unity, the voice said. Here lies the beginning, and the secret that was buried to keep the throne safe. Elias watched in silence as the images changed. A figure appeared, a woman, part human, part Zarian. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, and her eyes held galaxies. She stood beside a human man, scared and proud. They were surrounded by people, half Zarian, half human, standing together, not as subjects or rulers, but as equals. Who is she? Elias asked. Lena's voice shook. My mother. Elias turned to her, stunned. My mother was part of the first union between humans and Zarians. She believed peace could only come through equality, not rule. The Empire saw her as a threat. They erased her name from the records, killed her supporters, and buried the truth here. She stepped forward, her hand trembling. My father was human. He disappeared before I was born. They told me he died in the war. I never believed them. The images shifted again. Now they showed Zoran's bloodline, pure Zarian, raised to believe in their divine right to rule. Images of war, of forced peace treaties, of Zarians bending other worlds into silence. The empire was built on a lie, Lena said. The bloodline isn't divine. It was designed. And the reason Zoran wants me isn't just because of the past. It's because my existence proves that unity is possible without the throne. Elias stepped closer, his voice low. This is why they're after us. Yes, she said. If the galaxy sees what this temple holds, if they know the truth about the bloodlines, about me, about us, it could destroy the Empire's grip. A low rumble echoed through the chamber. The platform beneath them began to shift. A new section rose slowly from the floor, a narrow, glowing bridge leading to another chamber deeper below. What's down there? Elias asked. The rest of the truth, Lena said. They walked across the bridge, side by side. What they found was not treasure, not weapons, but records. Books, holograms, voice recordings, all from rebels who had once fought for the dream of unity. Among them were files with names, coordinates, and histories of others like Lena. Hybrids, people who had vanished or were forced to hide. We're not the only ones, she whispered. Elias looked at her. Then we find them. As they turned to leave, something in the shadows moved. A figure stepped out, tall, cloaked, and silent. Elias raised his blaster. The figure spoke, voice rough and tired. You've awakened something that cannot be undone. Lena stepped forward, her hand raised. Who are you? The figure removed his hood. He looked just like her. I'm your brother, he said. Betrayal in the stars. For a long moment, no one moved. The chamber stayed quiet, glowing softly under the ancient lights. Elias kept his blaster steady, but his hand tensed. Lena stepped closer to the stranger who called himself her brother. His face held pieces of her own. Same sharp jaw, same dark eyes with that strange shimmer only Zarian blood carried. His voice had the same rhythm as hers, as if they had once spoken the same words long ago, even without knowing it. I thought I was the only one, Lena said quietly. We all did, her brother replied. That's how they kept us apart. He told them his name was Keelan, and that he had lived in the shadows of the galaxy for most of his life. Born of the same mother as Lena, he had been hidden away before the Empire could find him. Raised by old rebels, trained in silence, taught to survive. He had spent years searching for traces of others like him, those caught between two worlds. Many were gone. Some had vanished without a trace. Others had given up hope and disappeared into quiet lives. Keelan had never stopped watching, and when Lena rejected Prince Zoran on Earth, it sent a signal across every hidden network. I knew it had to be you, he said. No one else could have stood before the throne and said no. Lena didn't know what to feel. Part of her wanted to hug him. Another part feared what his presence meant. Her mind raced with questions, but Elias was already asking one of the most important. How did you find this place? Keelan looked at him with calm eyes. I didn't. It called to me. Lena opened her mouth to ask what that meant, but before she could speak, the chamber lights dimmed. The floor beneath them vibrated. Keelan's eyes widened. They're here. Far above, orbiting the forgotten moon, a ship uncloaked. Black and sharp-edged, shaped like a blade through time. Not just any ship. Zoran's flagship. They had been followed. Not by chance, but by betrayal. Someone gave us up, Elias said. Keelan turned quickly. You brought them here. We didn't tell anyone about this place, Lena said. But Elias's jaw clenched. There had been someone. Back on Driftwell. Someone they had trusted with coordinates for refueling, for safety. One of the old rebels from Elias's past. A woman named Sari. She had smiled warmly when Elias introduced Lena. Had told them she believed in the cause. Sari, Elias muttered under his breath. Keelan nodded grimly. Zoran's reach is long. Even the strongest break when the price is right. Above them, the sky began to fall. The first strike hit the plateau, shaking the temple. Dust rained from the ceiling. Ancient stones cracked. Alarms long buried came to life, warning of breach, of destruction, of time running out. Keelan moved fast. He opened a hidden passage behind one of the pillars. There's a way out, but only one. Elias and Lena followed him into the dark again, deeper into the old temple's bones. The path twisted, narrow and rough. Behind them, explosions lit the ancient halls with red fire. The Empire was not coming to arrest them. They were coming to bury them. They reached a small launch chamber, hidden under layers of stone and tech. Inside was a single scout ship, older than any Elias had ever flown, but still intact. Its frame hummed with buried energy, untouched by time. "It's Zarian-made," Keelan said, "but built by the rebels. It's fast and cloaked." As they prepared for launch, Lena felt something shift. Not in the air, but in her. Her hand brushed against the control panel, and the ship responded to her touch. Lights glowed, systems awakened. The interface changed to match her thoughts. Elias noticed. "It knows you. It was made for us," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "For what we are." But then Keelan turned, his face hard. "You need to go. Alone." Lena stared at him. "What?" "I'll stay behind. Buy you time." "You won't make it," Elias said sharply. "I don't plan to," Keelan replied. Lena stepped forward, eyes burning. "No, we just found each other." Keelan placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is how we change things. By surviving. By telling the truth. The galaxy can't lose both of us." An explosion tore through the hallway behind them. Elias pulled Lena toward the ship. She didn't want to let go. But Keelan pushed them inside, sealed the door, and ran back toward the fire. The ship launched just as the temple behind them collapsed. From space, it looked like the moon was swallowing itself. On the ship, Lena stood silent. She couldn't speak. Elias guided the controls, hands tight around the handles. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "He's not gone," she whispered. "He gave us a chance." The stars stretched again as they jumped into light. And in that light, the fight for the galaxy was far from over. The final choice. Deep in the black stretch of space, far from stars and safe routes, the stolen scout ship drifted silently. The engines hummed at low power. Elias stared at the blinking lights on the control panel, reading each signal carefully, but his mind was elsewhere. Lena hadn't spoken in hours. She sat by the observation window, watching empty space, her eyes far beyond the glass. She hadn't cried. Not once. But her silence said more than tears ever could. Keelan was gone. The brother she just found had traded his life so they could escape. The final moments in the temple still echoed in her memory. His hand on her shoulder, the fire behind him, the way he had smiled, like he already knew his fate and accepted it. That kind of bravery didn't feel like victory. It felt like loss. "We need to find the others," Elias said finally. "Keelan said there were more like you." Lena nodded slowly. "I have names. Coordinates. Some of them are deep in hiding. Others are close to giving up. We'll have to convince them the fight is still worth it." "We will," Elias said. But even he didn't know how. Their ship approached a dead zone near the edge of the Orion Nebula, a place once used by smugglers and outlaws to trade without being seen. Now it held something else. Rebels. Those who still believed the Zarian Empire could be broken, not by war, but by truth. They landed on a fractured asteroid base, hidden behind energy scramblers and hollowed rock. It was quiet, almost too quiet. But inside, they found a group of people, humans, hybrids, and even former Zarians, waiting for something to believe in. Lena gave them the crystal, the ancient recordings, the story of her mother, the truth about the royal bloodlines, and a lie that had shaped the galaxy for generations. She told them about Keelan, about the temple, and about Zoran. Some doubted, some feared, but most listened. And when she finished, there was a strange silence. Heavy, thoughtful, alive. Then someone stood. "I believe her," the voice said. It was a woman, tall and weathered, with a soldier's stare. "And I think the Empire already knows she's coming." Those words proved true faster than anyone expected. Within hours, Zoran's voice appeared across the network, calm, commanding, and false. "Citizens of the galaxy," he said, "do not be fooled by the lies of traitors and half-bloods. The woman known as Lena 10 is a threat to peace, to order, to our very existence. She has allied with a known killer. They have destroyed sacred ground. If she does not surrender within one rotation, I will burn one human colony for every day she hides." The message ended. The room fell cold. Lena closed her eyes. This was her burden now. "I'm going to him," she said. Elias stepped forward. "No, there has to be another way." "There isn't," she said softly. "He's going to keep killing until he draws me out. He's not after war. He's after submission. If I surrender, I can buy time. Time for the rebels. Time for you." Elias shook his head. "I didn't come this far just to lose you." She reached out and touched his face. "You didn't lose me. This isn't the end." He wanted to believe her. He wanted to grab her, hold her, run again. But somewhere deep inside, he knew she was right. Zoran was forcing the galaxy into a corner. And Lena, with all her truth and courage, was the only one who could stop the blade from falling. She flew to Zoran's ship alone. No weapons, no army, just herself, wrapped in a simple coat, with a piece of her mother's necklace around her neck and fire in her heart. Zoran met her on the command deck of his flagship. He looked unchanged, proud, beautiful, dangerous. "You've come," he said. "You forced me," she answered. "I gave you a throne. You gave me shame. Now I give you a choice." He raised his hand. A screen behind him showed images of humans in chains, Zarian soldiers standing over them, children crying, cities burning at the edge of collapse. "Bow," he said, "and they live." Lena looked at the images, then at Zoran. And then she knelt. Not because she broke, but because she had a plan. The necklace around her neck began to glow. In that moment, across the galaxy, every screen lit up. A signal burst through the Empire's control systems. It wasn't just video. It was history, her mother's truth, the ancient recordings, the proof of the bloodline lies, Zoran's crimes, everything. The rebellion had triggered the beacon hidden in her necklace, the final gift from Keelan before he died. Zoran stared at the screens, shocked. "What have you done?" he whispered. Lena stood again. "I didn't come to beg," she said. "I came to show the truth." Outside the ship, rebel vessels emerged from shadow. Humans, hybrids, even Zarians who had turned. They weren't running anymore. And inside, Elias was already coming for her. Love beyond bloodlines. The sky outside the flagship was chaos. Ships raced through black space like streaks of fire. Some fired in defense, others in warning. And many simply stood still, unsure if they were witnessing the beginning of war or the end of something far older. Inside the command deck, Lena stood tall, her heart pounding not with fear, but with purpose. Zoran's face was pale with rage. He watched his world unravel, his voice caught between disbelief and fury. He shouted commands, ordered systems to shut down the broadcast. But the truth had already spread across every corner of the Empire. There was no pulling it back. The footage showed everything: the ancient prophecies, the erased histories, the lies built into the royal bloodlines. Images of the Zarian Empire's crimes lit up across neutral colonies, human settlements, and even Zarian-held worlds. For the first time, people saw the truth in the open. And then the alarms began. Unauthorized breach detected. The ship's voice rang coldly. Zoran spun around. What now? He knew before they told him. It was Elias. He had boarded the ship in silence, breaking through under the cover of rebel fire. A small team of freedom fighters moved with him, led by old soldiers who still believed in what Lena's mother once stood for. They didn't come with anger. They came with focus. Elias moved like a shadow through the corridors, quiet, steady, unstoppable. He didn't come to kill Zoran. He didn't come to fight for pride. He came for her. Lena. He had lost too much already. This time, he wouldn't let go. On the command deck, the doors burst open. Guards rushed forward, but Elias moved like he had trained for this moment his entire life. Quick hands, sharp strikes, and a calm fire behind his eyes. He dropped them without hesitation. Zoran turned to face him. The prince looked at Elias like one might look at something beneath them, something unworthy. You? Zoran said. You're just a man. Elias didn't reply. He looked past him, at Lena. She took a step toward him, and in that step, the world felt whole again. Zoran stepped between them. She's mine. No, Lena said, her voice quiet but full of power. I never was. And then she walked past Zoran and stood beside Elias. Zoran stared at them, breathing hard. You've destroyed everything. No, Lena said. I've revealed it. Outside, the rebel fleet held their line. No shots fired. No battle started. The Empire was shaken, but it wasn't burning. Not yet. Lena turned to Zoran one last time. You still have a choice. Surrender. Step down. End this before more blood is spilled. Zoran's hands curled into fists. The room buzzed with tension. His guards waited for a signal, but it never came. He looked around and saw the truth. His ship was surrounded, his lies exposed. Even some of his own soldiers were turning away. He lowered his eyes and said nothing. Later, on the surface of a neutral world, Lena stood before thousands. Her voice echoed across the stars as she spoke of the past and the future, of the Empire's fall and the rise of unity. She didn't ask for power. She didn't name herself queen. She simply asked for peace. And the galaxy listened. Zoran was taken into exile, not killed. His name erased from the throne, his empire dissolved by the will of the people. The royal bloodline ended not with war, but with truth. And through it all, Elias stayed by her side. They didn't build a palace. They didn't wear crowns. They lived in a quiet home near a starlit lake on a small world that no map highlighted. People still came to see her sometimes. Leaders, survivors, rebels turned diplomats. She listened, gave advice, but never ruled. Because Lena had already made her final choice. And it wasn't the throne. It was love. One evening, as they sat together under the sky, Elias handed her something small. It was an old metal ring. Simple, unshaped, nothing like the crystal Zoran once offered. This is all I have, he said. But it's real. Lena smiled. That's all I ever wanted. And they married with no ceremony, no titles, no audience, just them. And the stars. Some say their story became legend. A woman who turned down a prince for a mechanic. A human who challenged a throne with nothing but quiet strength. A love that crossed galaxies and changed everything. But to Lena and Elias, it was never about legends. It was about choosing each other, again and again, in every world, in every life.